So when I look at the overall situation for the industry as a whole in the US, it's not very bright. It's far removed from what it was just a few months ago.
Have you ever wondered what would happen if one of the world's biggest car companies suddenly found itself on the verge of collapse? That's exactly the question haunting Stellantis, the automotive giant behind legendary brands like Jeep, Dodge, and Chrysler. This isn't just a case of declining sales or a few unpopular models. Rumors are swirling that Stellantis is facing a crisis big enough to shake up the entire car industry. With dealer networks in disarray, sales in free fall, and internal conflicts brewing, Stellantis may be heading toward a crossroads that could forever change the face of American automobiles. Buckle up, because the story is only getting started. The dire sales drop, a wake-up call for Stellantis. The numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for Stellantis. Over the last 5 years, Stellantis brands like Jeep, Dodge, and Chrysler have faced a shocking 39% drop in sales. Jeep has seen a massive 44% decline since 2018, and Dodge is in even deeper trouble, with sales plummeting by a jaw-dropping 67% since its peak in 2013. Chrysler's lineup isn't faring any better, and many believe that this ongoing decline could threaten the survival of these iconic American brands. What's worse is that Stellantis appears to be losing touch with the very market it once dominated. Dealers are overwhelmed with unsold inventory, consumers seem indifferent, and the numbers show that Stellantis is in deep trouble. The ongoing slump has fueled fears that Stellantis may soon have to downsize its US operations, further jeopardizing the future of Jeep, Dodge, and Chrysler. According to a Stellantis insider, the management seems to be in denial. They keep pushing the same products, expecting different results, but customers have moved on. If they don't pivot soon, they'll be forced to retreat from key markets. Such rumors highlight just how grim the situation has become, with some predicting that Stellantis could abandon entire product lines to stay afloat. Could we be witnessing the beginning of the end for these iconic brands? Only time will tell. Inventory overflow, a crisis in the making. When the pandemic first disrupted the global supply chain, Stellantis ramped up production to prevent shortages. But instead of carefully balancing supply with demand, the company went all in, resulting in a disastrous overproduction. As of March 2024, Stellantis reportedly has 1.4 million unsold vehicles languishing in inventory. Not only are these cars not moving, but they're also aging, leaving dealers burdened with outdated models that today's buyers don't want. One dealership representative revealed Stellantis' decision to ramp up production without considering actual market demand has backfired horribly. Now we're left with millions of unsold cars that we simply can't get rid of. As competitors step up their game with fresher, more appealing options, Stellantis' stockpile of outdated vehicles becomes harder to offload, creating a vicious cycle that's driving dealers to the edge of financial ruin. And this inventory crisis has sparked widespread discontent among Stellantis dealers, who claim they've been left to shoulder the burden without adequate support. Compounding the issue is Stellantis' reluctance to provide attractive incentives to move inventory, unlike competitors who are offering aggressive discounts. Our dealerships are drowning in cars that no one wants to buy, one dealer lamented. Meanwhile, Stellantis is watching from the sidelines as we're left to clean up their mess. This glut of unsold inventory has left a significant financial strain on dealerships, some of which are struggling to stay afloat. The National Dealer Council has been vocal about the issue, calling for Stellantis to take immediate action. Whether the company will heed these calls remains to be seen, but one thing is clear: Stellantis' inventory management approach is turning into a crisis that could shake the industry. A costly pricing strategy, alienating loyal customers. As sales began to decline, Stellantis made a bold move that has since backfired spectacularly. They decided to raise vehicle prices in an attempt to maintain profit margins. Rather than rethinking their approach to win back consumers, Stellantis went for higher price tags, banking on the assumption that demand would remain stable. But the results speak for themselves, and customers have started turning to competitors offering more affordable options. According to automotive market analysts, Stellantis' pricing strategy is one of the most poorly executed in recent years. One expert explained, Stellantis' approach is nothing short of baffling. In an economy where consumers are already tightening their belts, they're raising prices on cars that frankly don't offer enough to justify the premium. This pricing miscalculation has allowed rivals to capture Stellantis' lost customers, as consumers turn to more budget-friendly alternatives from brands like Ford and Toyota. Stellantis dealers are also feeling the pinch from this pricing misstep. A longtime Dodge dealer stated, "We've seen a huge drop in foot traffic. People love the Dodge name, but when they see the price tags, they walk out. Stellantis has set prices too high and it's killing our business." As competitors gain ground with more attractive pricing, Stellantis' decision to push prices up seems to be backfiring, and the damage is increasingly visible. But even loyal Stellantis customers are starting to feel alienated. In a recent survey, many Jeep and Dodge fans expressed frustration over rising costs, with one respondent stating, "I've been a Jeep owner for years, but I can't justify paying so much when there are similar options for a fraction of the price." With competition intensifying and economic conditions remaining uncertain, Stellantis may soon have to rethink its pricing strategy or risk losing even its most devoted customer base. Internal tensions and CEO Carlos Tavares' controversial leadership. While Stellantis grapples with external pressures, internal conflicts are compounding its problems. Dealers have been increasingly vocal about their frustrations with Stellantis CEO Carlos Tavares, whose decision-making has raised eyebrows across the industry. The Stellantis National Dealer Council recently sent a letter to Tavares, accusing him of prioritizing short-term profits over long-term growth and undermining dealer profitability in the process. The council's letter didn't pull any punches, highlighting that Tavares' policies have driven a wedge between Stellantis' corporate leadership and its dealers. "We feel abandoned," stated one council member. "Tavares is running Stellantis like a profit machine with no regard for the people who actually sell these cars. If he doesn't start listening, there's a real chance we could see Stellantis fracture." The council criticized Tavares' cost-cutting measures, claiming that they've only deepened the crisis by slashing marketing budgets and scaling back support for dealerships. Tavares has responded to these criticisms by insisting that his approach is necessary to stabilize Stellantis amid challenging market conditions. But not everyone is convinced. Industry insiders believe that Tavares' approach is too narrow-minded and risks alienating the very dealers Stellantis relies on to push its products. Some have even gone as far as to suggest that Tavares' future with the company may be uncertain if he doesn't change course. One source close to Stellantis leadership confided Tavares might be betting on short-term gains, but he's burning bridges with dealers. They're the backbone of this company, and they're being ignored. The dealers, meanwhile, are demanding more support and a stronger commitment to protecting the long-term value of Stellantis' brands. But as tensions simmer, there's a growing fear that Tavares' leadership could push Stellantis further into crisis. Decline in brand loyalty, losing touch with the audience. Stellantis' struggles go beyond just numbers and inventory. They're deeply rooted in a growing disconnect between the company and its customers. Jeep, Dodge, and Chrysler have long been considered quintessentially American brands, loved for their rugged appeal and no-nonsense performance. However, Stellantis' recent decisions have eroded the loyalty these brands once commanded, leaving even the most dedicated fans questioning their commitment. One longtime Jeep enthusiast shared their frustrations. "I've been a Jeep owner for over 2 decades, but the new models don't feel like the Jeeps I grew up with. They're more expensive, less reliable, and don't seem built for the adventure that Jeep promises." This sentiment reflects a broader issue. Stellantis' approach to its legacy brands has led many to feel the company is out of touch with what makes these brands special. In its push for profitability, Stellantis has neglected the unique qualities that once set its brands apart, leaving customers feeling abandoned and disappointed. This brand loyalty crisis couldn't have come at a worse time. With more competition in the market than ever before, Stellantis can't afford to alienate its existing customer base. Yet, decisions like price hikes, reduced incentives, and the introduction of new models that deviate from the traditional brand identity are doing just that. For every customer Stellantis loses, there's another brand ready to swoop in, offering a product that more closely aligns with what consumers are looking for. Dealership frustration, the battle between dealers and Stellantis. While customers are voicing their frustrations, Stellantis' own dealers are grappling with what they call a lack of support from the company. The National Dealer Council has repeatedly criticized Stellantis for its policies, especially regarding inventory management and incentive strategies. Dealers feel stuck, having to push vehicles that are either too expensive or simply not in demand, all while receiving little support from Stellantis' leadership. One dealer stated bluntly, "It's like Stellantis is setting us up to fail. They're making decisions that make it hard harder for us to do our jobs, and we're the ones facing the customer backlash. The council has cited everything from Stellantis' cuts to marketing budgets to changes in compensation policies as reasons for the current friction. According to these dealers, Stellantis' approach has left them feeling like mere numbers in a spreadsheet with no consideration for the real challenges they face on the ground. In a recent interview, an anonymous dealer voiced concerns about the company's unwillingness to listen to its dealership's needs. We're the ones on the front lines dealing with customers every day. Stellantis' policies aren't just hurting us financially, they're damaging the reputation of these brands. We can't sell cars when the company doesn't give us the tools or support we need. This divide between Stellantis' corporate leadership and its dealerships is unprecedented and some say unsustainable. Dealers have warned Stellantis that if changes aren't made soon, they could face an exodus of dealers looking to work with more supportive and responsive automakers. Impact of strategic missteps on key models, from Ram to Jeep. Stellantis' decision to revamp some of its most iconic models has also sparked controversy, with fans and critics alike divided over the changes. The introduction of the Hurricane twin-turbo inline-6 engine, designed to replace the beloved V8 in several models, has been met with mixed reactions. While the new engine promises better fuel efficiency and lower emissions, many loyal Dodge and Ram fans are skeptical, fearing that this shift sacrifices the raw power and distinctive sound that once set these vehicles apart. One Dodge fan expressed their disappointment, saying, "They're trading in the heart and soul of these cars for efficiency. That's not what we fell in love with." Stellantis' gamble on a more environmentally friendly engine may appeal to certain buyers, but for others, the change is seen as a betrayal of the brand's essence. The debate has also created a split within the fan base, with some loyalists refusing to consider the new models, instead opting for used vehicles that retain the traditional V8 engine. Jeep has similarly faced backlash over rising prices and evolving designs that many feel are moving away from its rugged off-road roots. The 2024 Jeep Wrangler Rubicon, for example, now boasts a price tag that can exceed $85,000 with all the upgrades. This has led many to question whether Jeep is losing its appeal as an adventurous, accessible vehicle for the masses. As Jeep continues to push up prices, more customers are turning to competitors who offer similar features at a fraction of the cost. The fallout of mismanagement. Could this be the beginning of the end? Stellantis' recent decisions have stirred up speculation that the company could be on the verge of a major upheaval, with frustrated dealers, a declining customer base, and models that aren't resonating with buyers. Some industry experts are predicting a significant shakeup within the company. One auto analyst commented, "Stellantis seems to be in a downward spiral, and if they don't make some big changes soon, we could see a very different company in the next few years." There are even rumors that Stellantis' leadership might undergo a major restructuring. Some sources suggest that CEO Carlos Tavares is under immense pressure to step down or drastically change his approach, as dealers, customers, and even employees lose faith in his vision for the company. As the controversy around Stellantis' strategy continues to grow, it's clear that something has to give. In the meantime, the company's brands are bearing the brunt of the fallout. Ram, Jeep, Dodge, and Chrysler are all experiencing declining sales, and with each passing quarter, the outlook only grows bleaker. As Stellantis attempts to course correct, it will need to address not only its pricing strategy and inventory issues, but also the larger cultural divide between corporate leadership and the people on the ground who make these brands what they are. The legacy of Jeep and Dodge, at risk of being forgotten. For decades, brands like Jeep and Dodge have held iconic status in American culture. Jeep, with its rugged and adventurous image, and Dodge, known for its raw power and performance, have cultivated loyal followings that many thought would never fade. But Stellantis' recent decisions are putting that loyalty to the test. Loyal customers are questioning whether these brands still represent the same values, as Stellantis pushes changes that many feel are stripping away what made these vehicles special in the first place. One Jeep owner remarked, "Owning a Jeep used to mean something. It stood for freedom, for the open road. Now it just feels like they're turning it into another luxury brand that most of us can't afford." The changes to Jeep's product lineup and pricing strategy have created a divide among its fan base, with many longtime Jeep lovers turning to other brands that stay truer to the rugged spirit Jeep once embodied. Dodge fans are experiencing a similar disappointment. The introduction of the Hurricane twin-turbo engine, intended to replace the V8 in several several models has been seen by many as a betrayal of Dodge's muscle car legacy. One Dodge enthusiast commented, "They're taking away the roar of the V8, the sound that makes your heart race. Dodge without that power is just another car." With Stellantis prioritizing efficiency and lower emissions, some loyalists feel the company is abandoning the muscle car image that made Dodge famous. The consequences of these changes are already visible. Sales have continued to decline for both brands, and competitors like Ford and Toyota are more than willing to fill the void left by Stellantis. If these trends continue, Jeep and Dodge could find themselves becoming relics of the past, symbols of an era when automakers understood what their customers valued most. The dealer network speaks out, a growing divide. Stellantis' relationship with its dealer network has reached a breaking point. Dealers across the country have expressed mounting frustration with Stellantis' corporate strategies, claiming that the company's decisions are not only hurting their bottom lines, but also alienating their customer base. The Stellantis National Dealer Council has issued several statements warning of the dangers posed by Stellantis' current path, but so far these warnings have gone largely unheeded. In a candid interview, one dealer shared, "We're out here trying to sell cars that people aren't interested in, with no support from the company. It's as if Stellantis doesn't care about its dealers or customers. They're just focused on numbers on a spreadsheet." This sentiment is echoed by many within the dealer network who feel they've been left to bear the brunt of Stellantis' missteps. Dealers have been particularly vocal about Stellantis' handling of incentives and support programs, which they argue are insufficient in today's competitive market. While rival companies offer attractive financing options and promotions, Stellantis has held back, leaving dealers without the tools they need to move inventory. One dealer summed it up saying, "We can't compete if Stellantis doesn't back us up. It's that simple." The tension between Stellantis and its dealers has reached a point where some dealers are considering switching to other manufacturers. Rumors are circulating that certain dealers are in talks with Stellantis' competitors, exploring the possibility of representing brands that offer better support and a more cooperative relationship. If Stellantis doesn't address these issues soon, it could see a mass exodus of dealers, which would be disastrous for its US market presence. Stellantis' electric vehicle push, a gamble on the future. Amidst all these challenges, Stellantis is placing a significant bet on electric vehicles, EVs, as the future of its product lineup. CEO Carlos Tavares has touted EVs as a way to reposition Stellantis as an environmentally conscious automaker, but this shift has sparked further controversy. Loyal customers who have traditionally turned to Stellantis for powerful fuel-driven vehicles are wary of the company's aggressive move toward electrification. For many Dodge and Jeep enthusiasts, the appeal of these brands has always been in their raw, unfiltered power, something that electric vehicles, despite their performance capabilities, don't quite replicate. One Dodge fan shared, "Electric vehicles are great and all, but they're not Dodge. We want that engine growl, that thrill of raw power. Stellantis is betting on EVs, but they're risking their identity in the process." Furthermore, industry experts have questioned whether Stellantis is moving too quickly into a market that's still in flux. While electric vehicle sales are rising, they still represent a relatively small portion of the market. Critics argue that Stellantis' focus on EVs could alienate its existing customer base, who may not be ready to make the shift to electric. This shift has led some to speculate that Stellantis is trying to please investors rather than focusing on what its customers actually want. And then there's the practical issue. Stellantis' US dealers are ill-equipped for the transition to electric vehicles. Many dealerships lack the infrastructure to service and support EVs, and Stellantis' reluctance to invest in helping its dealers make the transition has left them feeling abandoned. As a result, many dealers are worried about their ability to sell and support EVs in a market that may not yet be ready to fully embrace them. Mounting pressure on Carlos Tavares. Leadership in question. With Stellantis' future hanging in the balance, CEO Carlos Tavares is facing intense scrutiny. Dealers, customers, and industry experts alike are beginning to question whether Tavares has the vision and strategy to guide Stellantis through its current crisis. Tavares' focus on cost-cutting and short-term profitability has been criticized as short-sighted, with many fearing that his approach is doing lasting damage to Stellantis' reputation and customer loyalty. An industry insider shared, "Carlos Tavares might be the problem here. His vision doesn't seem to align with what these brands need to succeed in the US. He's alienating dealers, losing customers, and focusing on initiatives that don't resonate with the core audience." There are even rumors within Stellantis that board members are considering bringing in new leadership if Tavares doesn't start showing a willingness to adapt. Adding fuel to the fire, the Stellantis National Dealer Council has reportedly issued a warning to Tavares, urging him to reconsider his approach before it's too late. In a leaked memo, the council outlined their concerns, emphasizing that Tavares' leadership is putting the future of Stellantis' American brands at risk. The memo went so far as to suggest that if Tavares doesn't pivot, Stellantis may face a full-scale rebellion from its dealer network. As the controversy surrounding Stellantis' leadership grows, so does the pressure on Tavares to make a decisive move. Whether he can steer Stellantis back on course, or if the company's fate will fall into the hands of a new CEO remains to be seen. For now, the future of Stellantis is clouded with uncertainty, and many are watching closely to see what the company's next move will be. Stellantis' competition, rivals gaining ground. As Stellantis struggles to address internal issues, its competitors are seizing the opportunity to capture market share. Brands like Ford, Toyota, and General Motors have positioned themselves as reliable and customer-centric alternatives, offering competitive pricing and innovative new models that appeal to a wide range of buyers. While Stellantis' pricing strategy has alienated many potential customers, Ford and GM are introducing attractive financing options and incentives to draw in budget-conscious consumers. One industry analyst commented, "Stellantis is so focused on its internal challenges that it's ignoring the competition. Ford and Toyota have been building on their strengths, investing in models that resonate with consumers, while Stellantis continues to alienate its base with decisions that are hurting its brand's identities." These rivals are not just growing in terms of market share, but also establishing a stronghold in segments where Stellantis brands once led. For example, as Jeep prices skyrocket, consumers are turning to Ford's Bronco lineup, which offers similar off-road capability at a more affordable price. Likewise, GM's focus on electric vehicle development, paired with supportive dealer incentives, has won over environmentally conscious consumers, a demographic Stellantis is struggling to attract. If Stellantis fails to address these issues, it could lose a significant portion of its market share to these agile competitors. Financial pressures. Could Stellantis be heading for a shakeup? With sales declining and internal conflicts mounting, Stellantis' financial stability is under increasing scrutiny. Analysts are raising questions about whether Stellantis can continue to absorb these losses without a major restructuring. The financial strain is evident, and some sources close to the company have hinted that Stellantis might be preparing for drastic measures to stay afloat. Rumors are circulating that Stellantis could be planning to streamline its brand portfolio, potentially phasing out underperforming models or even entire brands. One financial expert speculated, Stellantis' current trajectory isn't sustainable. At some point, they're going to have to make tough decisions, and that could mean downsizing their operations in North America. If these rumors prove true, Jeep, Dodge, and Chrysler might face an uncertain future, with Stellantis shifting focus to markets where it feels more confident about its prospects. Such a move would likely be controversial, but as the company's struggles continue, the pressure to make significant changes grows stronger. Dealers are already feeling the impact, with many reporting lower profits and reduced support from Stellantis. Without a clear path to recovery, Stellantis could face not only a loss of consumer trust, but also dwindling investor confidence. The financial strain on dealerships, combined with shrinking sales and mounting inventory, is creating a perfect storm that Stellantis may not be able to weather without major intervention. The road ahead, can Stellantis reclaim its place? The next few years will be critical for Stellantis as it grapples with defining the future of its brands. The company's current approach has raised concerns across the board, from dealers to consumers and even investors. To survive, Stellantis will need to address the very issues it has overlooked for too long: brand identity, customer loyalty, dealer support, and competitive pricing. But the real question remains, does Stellantis have the will and the vision to make the changes necessary to stay relevant? For Dodge, Jeep, and Chrysler fans, the stakes are high. These are brands that represent more than just vehicles. They're symbols of a culture, a lifestyle, and a legacy. But Stellantis' actions are casting doubt on whether the company understands or respects this legacy. One devoted Dodge fan voiced their fears. "We've loved these brands for years, but Stellantis is losing sight of what makes them special. If they don't turn things around, we might be saying goodbye to a piece of American history." And while the company may be able to weather short-term financial losses, the long-term damage to its brand reputation could be irreversible. If Stellantis wants to hold on to its place in in the US market, it will need to make bold decisions and bring back the qualities that made its brands beloved in the first place. The journey to reclaim its former glory won't be easy, but it's a journey Stellantis must embark on if it hopes to avoid becoming another casualty in the shifting automotive landscape. The challenges Stellantis faces are daunting, and its future is far from certain. Will Stellantis pull off a comeback that restores its brands to their former glory, or are we witnessing the slow fade of Jeep, Dodge, and Chrysler from the American automotive scene? The next few years will tell. Thanks for tuning in to our in-depth look at the turmoil within Stellantis and the ripple effects across the car industry. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon for more updates and in-depth analyses on the latest in automotive news. We'll be watching closely as this story unfolds and keeping you informed every step of the way.